Hello, this is Frida Liu and you're watching The Shift Asia. Formed in 2013, a group of 4 young visionaries set out to change the sustainability scene in Malaysia through progressive ideas, changing how people look at waste and sustainability issues. What started in a humble apartment and then a house in Jalan Ipoh grew rapidly due to awards and recognition, and they had their head start with a corporate gift order of 2,000 banner bags in 2013 and winning Alliance Bank's SME Innovation Challenge Award in 2014. I'm here with one of the visionaries, co-founder and group CEO Rashwin Singh, someone I have known for a long time. I have seen this little boy grown up with this young man, so 12 years on now. Come a long way from the humble beginnings, right? And maybe for those who don't know, a quick recap of what it's all about and why you all started this.
Hi Frida, really a joy to be here. And yes, it has been that many years we've got to know each other. So we started Biji Biji back in 2013. And at that point, it was really to champion sustainable development through circular economy.
Right.
And over the years now, we still do that. We do circular economy, and we also run impact accelerators to help scale other nonprofits and social enterprises.
Okay.
Why we started this, Frida? So the 4 of us, Gurpreet, Azam, Zoe, myself, all were doing different work, and we all had some frustrations with looking at how business was being run, how environmental issues were not being properly addressed. So we all left what we were doing with that frustration, but being channeled into a much more positive, impactful way through social entrepreneurship.
Right. I remember talking to you guys last 12 years and like not really fully comprehending and seeing how now this is sort of like almost full circle that people are getting it. But imagine that conversation.
At that point,
right? Like what in heaven's name are these young people talking about, right? So there's so many things to cover. So I'm keeping it broad and you can, go deeply into it. But what has started in Jalan Ipoh, in the house, right? Now your work has impacted 11 countries in Southeast Asia. That's almost all of the South ASEAN countries, right? How did your work overseas begin? What are you doing in these 11 countries?
So when we looked at how we've grown from being very local-centric, solving waste problems, it was really important, Frida, but at the size of things, right, we had to achieve scale.
Right.
And we found education as the method that was most effective for us to reach a much broader audience.
Right.
So circa around 2018, 2019, we started making our online modules, making education content, and then we worked with partners, the US State Department and Microsoft, to expand our content in the region.
Right.
And it started off with Indonesia. So we make content in Bahasa Indonesia as well. And that's been mostly since the last 3 to 4 years.
Right. So, and I understand because there's only so much that one person can do, but when you bring out a formula that all these countries in ASEAN can do, you be a greater impact, right? So that's so impactful. I'll talk a little bit about something I saw outside a little bit as well. Maybe some of the success stories in the region. I know that like now in Indonesia, there's an office in Indonesia.
We have a team there.
Okay.
They work remotely, so there's no office per se, but they're all across Indonesia. And that's really recognizing that the problems are regional and there is local applicability. Okay. You will find that whilst countries have very different demographics, cities tend to have a lot in common, right? Urban issues, unemployment. So this type of challenges are quite consistent.
Quite universal.
Universal in a city-to-city relationship, right? So we then looked at how and also there's a close connection culturally as well, Malaysia, Indonesia. So we started having Indonesian colleagues naturally because we could work. So COVID really changed how we could see things.
Okay.
Because when remote work happened, then you could work with anybody.
Right.
So we started having colleagues from the region. And then we were like, and they would be like, Rash, this would apply totally well in Indonesia as well.
Right.
So then we started having colleagues, then we started working with partners there, and now there's 7 people out of Indonesia.
Right. And actually, we always could work remotely, but COVID woke us up to that fact, right?
And effectively, and the trust became very good after COVID.
Right. Okay. So you told me about the things that you're doing. Tell me about the programs and the courses that you have at the moment.
So if I just tie the dots, right, Frida? So Biji Biji is sustainable development, and Mereka, t-shirt I'm wearing today, is the Malay word for they, them, and Mereka.
To create.
Exactly. So Mereka started education in 2018, and part of the education shift, right, Frida, was also us recognizing where we would get the biggest value.
Okay.
So we were making products, right?
Yeah.
If you remember the bags,
Yes.
doing art installations, doing furniture even. But there was a gap in how things are valued. So if we would get valued for labor work at about 100 ringgit a day, that was sort of the comparison because it's always a migrant labor comparison of rates. When we were doing education work, that was at about 100 ringgit an hour.
Right.
So we understood that for the same hour of a person, you could be valued totally differently based on the service and the value you're creating.
Right.
So that drove the shift towards education and also the drive to figure out financial sustainability within the social enterprise model.
And people don't realize that, right? In social enterprises, and although we've come a long way, a lot of the social enterprises still think like NGOs, right? So the mindset has to change. I always believe that social enterprises should be profitable to be sustainable.
Yes.
To have continuous impact, right? Okay, so you also have Biji Biji, and I was referring to that bag I saw outside, and I've seen it before. It's a very lovely bag for your laptop.
Super sturdy.
And it's made of...
discarded car seat belts.
Okay, so these are and you also do things with banners and all that.
So we do a bit less of that now. We have partners who can make the product for us. So now it's purely a B2B play.
Okay.
If we get corporate orders and then we work on that. The B2C market is too much of a marketing and it's a different game. And I don't think that was our forte.
Yes.
Yeah. We were good storytellers. We were much better at educating and inspiring. But to do the, and also it's a very tough cost game.
Yes.
And we didn't want sustainable materials to be expensive.
Right.
So it's important to be affordable, and education was where. So we've made our designs open source. We've shared it with other colleagues. We've got comrades in Indonesia who've come to us and say, "Hey, we saw what you did in 2015, and you inspired us." People in South, so we've done really well, I think, in sort of bringing the sense of belief, especially with, I would say young, but just young adults, right? That no, your corporate or standard idea of work is not the only way to apply your skill sets. Fulfillment's important, and SE models are a fantastic way to achieve that.
Okay, and I think with Biji Biji, what you've done, you say it makes sense with corporate orders when you've got volume, but that model could work in different countries.
Exactly.
Right? Because for us, it's very, that you're saying the comparison with migrant workers and that kind of thing, so we will never work on the basis of cost, but in some countries that model works, right? So, and one of the things as well, I noticed that 70% of your team are women. Is that by design or by default?
Yeah, so that's a nice one you picked up. I would have to say by design, because when we started, it was the reverse.
Okay,
it was 70%.
Four guys.
I mean, 3 guys, Zoe, women, right? But then when you go beyond the initial 3-4 years, we were a very male, and it was to do with the work.
Yeah.
The work was quite labor intensive, so naturally that was the demographic. But then obviously you had to be intentional about hiring and inclusive, right? So then where do you market, channels did you use?
Right.
And with that intentionality, now there's 70% women in the team, and at senior management, it's half-half.
Right.
It's 50-50. Yeah.
Okay, and you find that it's just different in terms of the work that you do with more women on board or equal numbers of women on board. Now there's 50-50. How do you think that has an impact on your organization, I guess?
I think it's definitely brought this, the drive is the same, the ambition is the same, but it's definitely brought a lot of deeper nuances when it comes to empathy, when it comes to how we look at internal capacity building.
Right.
And I think there is some sort of calmness also. And I think that comes with age as well, where there is the bravado in the beginning or the ambition, and then later you're like, okay, let's do things at a slower pace, but for the longer term.
Okay, I'm going to ask you this question. You've been in this space for more than a decade now. Are there still misconceptions about social enterprises, and why are we not churning more? Here, maybe in Malaysia. Okay.
Yeah. So this is a great question, right? Between me and you, Malaysia is one of the leading countries globally when it comes to having an SE ecosystem.
Okay.
Which I mean, there's strong policy from the government, there's support from MOF, from the Entrepreneurship Ministry, corporates recognize the work we do, and there's a thriving peer-to-peer network, right? However, I think if the game is to create more social enterprises, it's quite hard because essentially you're creating a new business with a lot of important details to get right.
Right.
However, I think where we're missing the point is actually converting existing SMEs who are probably more on the right side of the spectrum to come to the center.
Okay.
I think because there's only so many you can create, Frida. And with any typical business, failure rate is real, right? 80% fail within the first 3 to 5 years. So, and especially with being very intentional about impact, I think it is tough.
So what you're saying is that like SMEs moving more towards the social aspect in the way they run their business is probably better for us.
I think that's how we're going to get scale.
Okay.
Right? So ESG, which is a big part of the show that we work on at The Shift, is looking at how ESG can be mainstreamed.
Yeah.
And ESG for me is sort of bringing corporate capitalism a layer, a notch towards the center to be more inclusive. And social enterprises are probably a bit more right in the middle.
Right.
So the ESG movement, I think, is totally in the right direction of making businesses more accountable.
Okay.
And then SEs would naturally thrive from there.
Okay. And you're right, actually. You think about it, how we've got a ecosystem that's laid out quite well. I don't know how other countries doing it, but I think Malaysia is doing a great job, right? But
in Sabah, you've got a great movement of social enterprises over there. Sarawak State has their own policy, Johor. So we even see states in Malaysia driving the SE ecosystem.
Right. Okay. And I guess when you talk about partners and your various aspects of your business, what sort of partners are you looking for?
So the gap that doesn't happen often enough is partners who see impact work beyond World Environment Day and Women's Day, right? That's just, let's be honest, like it's a bit of a dance.
Right.
What you want is corporate partners who see value side by side in long-term partnerships. So integration into supply chain is the big game.
Right.
And we've seen that with some partners.
Yes.
We work with IKEA, social entrepreneurship, and they take this really intentionally.
Right.
So we've launched an accelerator with them in Malaysia. It's to grow the SE ecosystem. And also we're running now a very fun thing, which is a B2B procurement day.
Okay.
So most SE marketplaces tend to be a marketplace, like a bazaar, right? Good for customer interaction and awareness. But you want to be long-term in the partnership. You want to have economies of scale. So we're doing a B2B procurement day. IKEA is helping us to lead this, sharing how they have integrated SEs into their supply chain. Yes, to get into IKEA's supply chain is super complicated. I mean, it's got a high standard, but they've done it.
Okay.
So they're trying to see how they can inspire Malaysian corporates to do the same.
Right. And so with this, and then at least in their supply chain, then their suppliers are from social enterprises and they're making an impact in the community. I don't know if it's still happening. I think they were offering companies that buy from social enterprises to have tax breaks. I don't know if that ever took off.
No,
Okay.
I'll have to double check, but not that I know of.
Okay.
But also, right, it's more than just buying products. So yes, and also in the buying products thing, Frida, we always go back to the corporate gifts and the door gifts, which is an easy way to start because you have a good number of SEs who are in the gifting or product side of it. But services. So imagine training organizations that train your corporate staff, but also then provide PWD access and unemployed access. Bringing in services that are already cleaning services, training services, animation, design services that are also inclusive in the way the company is set up. So on the services side, I think there's a huge game to play because that's not how corporates see impact typically.
Okay. I hope that this, when I have this conversation with you in 10 years, it'll be a new thing. And because what you said 10 years ago was radical and now it's kind of commonplace.
Touch wood.
So hopefully, we would be bridging the gap maybe less than 10 years, right? And what are some upcoming initiatives that you can talk about?
So understanding that AI is going to play a huge part. And yes, there's also concerns about power consumption, as well as, displacement. But it is an amazingly powerful technology that we have to adapt and use it responsibly. So working with Microsoft quite a lot to make AI accessible and putting people into jobs. So on Mereka side, we're really doubling down on skills for jobs. And that's really the game we're going in. At Biji Biji side, we're looking at how we could support other SEs in the ecosystem, both in Malaysia and ASEAN, and programs like IKEA is one of those. And Hasana is a long-term partner of ours. They've been intentional and very fantastic in giving that long-term support.
Okay, and it's important for these foundations to come on board initially, and hopefully, we can do this and make it more commercial in that sense, right? I know I'm trying to unpack 12 years here, right? Is there anything else you'd like to bring up that I have not asked you yet that you would like to talk about?
I mean, I think in the end, it's about all of us understanding we want to get to the same place. And, you know, we are seeing a lot of global shifts of like regionalization and maybe, some challenges globally in politics. So, so there's a huge need for local solidarity or region, and that must come from our local corporates. I ask myself, right, how much are we going to depend on EU or the US to sort of solve issues in the region? Why are not local billionaires, philanthropists looking at it not just from philanthropy, but investing? So impact investment hasn't happened as much, Frida, because impact investors are using the same lens as VCs. So we need patient capital. We need investors who come in and say, hey, I will get my returns, but it's maybe on the 7 to 10 year, but you're investing in sustainable businesses that create jobs, that solve issues, and puts your money to good work.
Exactly. And not only that, forget about the goodness of things, right? I mean, if you raise the level of income for a nation, there'll be more people buying from you who will be, you know.
I love that you see it from that macro standpoint.
And that's it, right? The more people that are well-to-do or middle class, the more of a business that you have, but you've got to uplift the nation.
When the GDP goes up, the big companies always benefit the first, right? So, and it's important to have good big business. It's good because they bring scale and innovation. But sharing the pie, wealth distribution, I think, is something which we don't talk about enough.
All right. Thank you, Rashwin, and we don't have to wait for 12 years to have this
No,
other conversation again. Thank you so much. I love hearing about the things you're doing, because Rashwin from Biji Biji Initiative, from Mereka, look for him. You'll see the many things he's doing. You've been watching The Shift Asia.